Welcome back to Townsquare Sunday. Dennison Memorial in the South End has always been a place where children gathered for recreation, good times, one of the oldest nonprofit programs in the city of New Bedford. But there's something special going on there, I think, that's happening there right now. Of course, the folks at Dennison will tell you there's been a lot of special things that have happened over the years, well before right now, but I think there's something really wonderful going on there now. Joining us, Executive Director Jim Mathis and Sean Hargraves, who's been there forever, just about.
36 years.
36 years. Welcome to you both. How old is Dennison? Let's start there. Sean?
It was originally incorporated in 1868. It began in the mid-1850s as a place for the immigrant population that was coming into work in the mills and in the fishing fleet, and it was originally served as a hospital and social service agency. It was founded by 4 women. That's why originally its name was the Lady City Mission Society, and it continued from there, always serving the poor and the needy and the new immigrants that were coming in that made New Bedford what it was.
Jim Mathis has been there considerably less.
About 4.5 years now.
4.5 years as the executive director.
Actually, John's the executive director, and I'm the president and CEO.
Okay.
So we have very, very well-defined roles. I stick more on the business side, and Sean handles all of the programs and the hundreds of kids.
Mm-hmm. Dennison has always been looked at as a safe haven for kids in the South End, but now, remarkably, kids from all over the city are showing up. And there's you never had more kids, perhaps. I don't know.
Now, I know when I started there, I know 4.5 years ago, we only had, I think, 225 or so kids. The last number I saw in the membership count was over 650. And on any given day, it's entirely possible. Like for the Christmas party, we had well over 200 kids who were at Dennison the day just for the Christmas party alone. So, you know, as Sean has often said, the numbers of kids in the building right now are just off the charts, and which is exactly what we want. Yeah. But he's been saying that the age of the kids that are in the building has been something that's significantly different in the past, too.
What's the difference?
You know, it just seems over the past couple of years, and especially this year, we've had a huge influx of middle school kids. And normally when people see groups of middle school kids, they
cringe.
They cringe, and the group of middle school kids we have this year, and I keep saying it to them, they are great. You know, it has been drama-free. They participate in everything we're doing. There are more and more joining every day, and it's been a real joy to have so many of them.
I think it kind of, you know, when I look at it, when the kids get older, you know, and they start thinking more about how cool they are, Dennison might not have that coolness factor, at least it hasn't had in the past. When they get older and they want to maybe be on the street a little more, I think what's happening is that, you know, they're seeing that this is a good place for them to stay, even if they're in middle school. And in some cases, we even have some high school kids who are in the building. I mean, everything else is the same. The rules are the same. The things that we offer to the kids are pretty much the same. They just are choosing to be there. We want that because we know that it's a lot healthier environment for them than if they were out on the street after school.
Well, here's one thing that's fairly new. The arrangement with New Bedford Public Schools.
Yeah, we've been really, we've been blessed. They actually approached us a couple summers ago and wanted to place a teacher in Dennison over the summer. And I was skeptical. I just thought about myself at that age in the summertime when I didn't have to go to school. Would I want to spend time with the teacher? So I was actually telling the school system, why don't we try it like for a couple hours, one day a week? They said, no, let's really go after it because, you know, they know the kids are in Dennison in the summer and they have a hard time getting kids to go into school buildings in the summer. So, okay, so we're going to assign 2 teachers, an English teacher and a math teacher they both came from Roosevelt Middle School. The only thing we asked, we said, make sure that these are you know, men or women who can relate easily to kids, not come across as a disciplinarian in any way, shape, or form. We want them to develop relationships with their kids. Well, the 2 teachers who came in actually were able to engage over 100 of our kids in academic activities over the course of the summer. And the ones who really stood out and put a ton of time in, both in their reading and doing math problems, we took, I think, 25 of them down to Water Whiz at the end of the summer just to recognize them for the effort that they put into it. I could not have been more wrong in the beginning saying that I didn't think our kids would take advantage of teachers being in the building. And since that time, we've been able to, most of the time, the second half of every year, and we'll start again here soon, we've been able to have these teachers in our building working with the kids on their homework, on their literacy skills, on their math, and in some cases on other subjects as well.
And I don't know if they reported back to you, are these kids doing well in school?
Yeah, they have.
Better than they were, perhaps?
I think the most significant aspect of it has been not just the prevention of what they call summer learning loss for the kids who participate. Typically, when a kid's off for 8 weeks, 9 weeks over the summer, they're not reading at all. Even though the schools assign them, give them something they're supposed to read over the summer, a lot of the kids, if not most of them, don't. Well, and so when they go back and then they do the first tests in September in the schools, they see that their literacy skills are slightly diminished from where they were when they had, finished school in June. Well, what's happened now is not just a case of the kids not suffering summer loss, learning loss, but actually showing some improvements in their literacy skills over the summer. And literacy is, from our perspective, that's the key. If you can't read, you can't learn. And if you can't learn, you're not going to do well in school. And when you start knocking those dominoes down, what that basically means is you're going to have a rough life. You're going to have a hard time in life when you grow up, which happens very quickly, and you go out in that cold, cruel world. You need to be able to function with the proper amount of education, and hopefully by not just finishing high school, but going beyond that. That's why I just see it as some of the most important work we do, having those teachers in the building and working with hundreds of kids.
And those teachers, if I could just give a shout out to them, it was Mike Babola, Alana Ritchie, and Amy Biddle, and they were spectacular. We couldn't have asked for any better, more energetic people that took personal interest in the kids. When they weren't teaching, when they weren't in the computer room, they would go on field trips with us. They were a great group, and that made a big, big difference.
Mike was the math teacher, and so he'd go out into the gymnasium with a couple of kids, and they may play a game of horse or a game of out shooting baskets. And the deal was, if I win, okay, you got to do some math problems. And the kids would follow through on their end of the deal. I mean, they found some really unique ways to engage our kids and get them involved in academics over the summer.
And they had programs from the school department that they could follow through on the computer.
So tell me, is there any movement in getting some of these teachers in after school? Yeah,
we did that. We weren't able to do it in the first semester of the school year last year or this year. We haven't had them in our building since the end of August. But I did speak to one of them, and I'm hoping to bring at least two back in soon. We receive a grant from the Carney Family Foundation that provides funding for that. We also receive additional funding that comes from the South Coast Business Alliance. Both of those grants are aimed at being able to support academic endeavors, and the primary endeavor we're involved in right now is bringing those teachers in. Now, when they're in our building during the school year, that means that they're there when kids come in, when they get out of school. And so now the focus is on their homework, making sure that their homework's up to date, and if they need help on a special project. And they do a great job with that, too. And it's not just them. They're the primary players, I would say, but also all of our staff gets involved in helping kids with academics. And then, Sean, over the past few years, how many UMass students do we have coming in the building now?
12 each week. They come, there are 4, 5, or 6 that come they each come 2 days a week. It's part of, they're paid through work study, but it's part of the America Reads program.
So they're tutoring in essence.
They're tutoring
right,
as well.
And our homework room, we used to have one dedicated homework room upstairs. We still have that's crowded. And then the computer room downstairs is loaded with kids. And we also received the Community Development Block Grant from
So
the
what
city.
time does that happen? 4 o'clock?
Right. As soon as kids
As soon as
come
they
in.
start coming in.
And most of them, what's your term for what kids do? They self-select their programs.
Yeah.
Tim, it's a great term for coming in and choosing what you want to do. But a lot of kids just instinctively like to knock their homework out. So right when they come in from school, 2:45, there's a big crowd, and the homework room and the computer room are loaded.
You're listening to Townsquare Sunday. My guest is President Jim Mathis and Executive Director Sean Hargraves of Dennison Memorial in New Bedford. Sean, anything new planned for 19 besides the added educational help? Anything else you can think of that, might put some more kids in there?
Oh, yeah.
Bigger population.
The amount of kids was hitting historically high daily levels, but, with Jim's help and funding and, things he's planned, we do have the staff, from years ago where we used to have 4 or 5 workers in there every day. Yeah. Now I would say there's, 10, 15, spread out all over, outside, inside. So we're always available to develop new things. Things run in cycles. Right now the big thing that's happening in the gym is every day kids are playing volleyball. And we just go through cycles like that. But if I could give a shout out to Jim, when he came 4 years ago for Dennison as an organization, it was a miracle. We were always fighting for every dollar. I got high blood pressure out of it. And the day he arrived, when sort of the financial burden shifted from me over to him, and he's been so great attracting people into seeing what Dennison means, that's meant everything to Dennison's survival.
He knows a few people.
He does know a lot of people.
By the same token, what Sean has built there, you have a facility there that a full gymnasium and a modern center that grew out of a very old, dilapidated building and a dirt lot. We have a very modern center that serves the needs of the kids in the South End, and Sean built that, and there was no debt whatsoever. He raised the money to put that structure up. We had a daycare program that also carried a lot of the freight that, not through any fault of Sean or Joe or anybody else who's there. The daycare program just ended because the state funding for it went away. It was redirected to other places. And that really just put Dennison behind the 8 ball. So the fact that I was able to come there, I didn't come in and start some new team. I came in and just became a role player on a really strong team and have been fortunate to do the things that I've been able to do. But anybody who comes into that building and sees how those kids relate to Sean Hargraves and Joe Neves and the rest of the staff who is there will know very quickly, who runs that place.
You're located in what's been a tough area of the city. I think we all know that. An area struggling to come back. Still a tough area, though. But Dennison is considered a safe haven. It's considered a place.
And we were just talking about this prior to coming in when I said, a lot of times, when I say Dennison, or if someone says, and they say that's on South First Street, and they make a funny face, it really gets me because it's not. It has a reputation from the 80s and 90s that I assume it's never going to shake, but it's a safe neighborhood. It's a safe area. Everything, all the apartments and buildings around us, are safe. But just I always hate that connotation that it's a shoot 'em up neighborhood and people should fear dropping their children off. The kids are dropped at the front door. They're checked in. They're inside the building. We have staff everywhere. It's not like we're letting your child roam around somewhere. But so I kind of cringe when anybody talks about the neighborhood.
Yeah, we don't let them roam at all. Matter of fact, we started a policy a few years ago that when you're in, you're in. we cannot stop a child from leaving. But if we say we have a young child who wants to leave, no, you're not going to leave until your parents come to get you. But if we have an older teenager, a high school kid who wants to leave, they know that if you came in at 3 o'clock and then you left at 4:15 to go somewhere, you're not coming back in today unless your parents bring you back. One of the things that we worry about is that we don't know where the kids would then end up going when their parents think they're actually at Dennison. And so that's why we tell the parents right up front that that's a hard and fast policy that we have.
So let's eliminate the neighborhood from consideration. Except for the kids. The kids are exposed to maybe a lot more things that kids out in the suburbs may not be exposed to.
I know that many of the Dennison grads are flourishing. Well, actually, I know that one is flourishing. Her name is Danielle Lopez. Right before the Founders Dinner last year, she had graduated from New Bedford High, Bridgewater University, been named a Fulbright Scholar, and was headed to Malaysia to teach. She was on this program, and she stole the show. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. And she was smart, glib,
articulate,
ready to face new challenges in the world. And if you can pull out a few more of those from Dennison, that's a great thing.
I think we have hundreds of them around that people may just not know about. But those are the ones we started a few years ago with the awards dinner, and we had to select people that were graduates, and there are so many that we could nominate.
I have some kids who I had a mentoring program before, with the Smiles program before, and so I've mentored some of the kids at Dennison as well, who I see pretty much every day. And I see such talent, but there's one in particular who I see her every day. She comes in and sits down and we chat a little bit when she gets into the building, who it's not going to surprise me in the least if 15, 20 years from now, she's the one who we're going to be recognizing. And I think a lot of times all kids, not just kids who come to Dennison, don't necessarily have the kind of confidence that can be so important to bringing out what is really in them. And that's one thing I'm seeing with this young lady, is that she's developing a lot of confidence and she's becoming more sure of herself. And that's why I say it's just really cool to be there. And I think to myself, while I don't say it to her, I really am looking forward to seeing what she's up to 10, 15, 20 years from now.
And except for everybody on the staff has a positive attitude, but I think part of, with the America Reads kids, with the teachers from school, some of our workers are still in college. When I grew up, I just knew that I didn't have a choice about college. I just assumed I had to go, and that's the way we want them to think. Yep. We're assuming they're going to graduate from high school, and we want them to know you're going to college.
And that's a very important goal for many, many people. We have to leave it there, gentlemen. My guest has been the president of Dennison, Jim Mathis, and the executive director, Sean Hargraves, Dennison Memorial, New Bedford South End. Thank you, gentlemen. Continued success in 2019, and we look forward to meeting more of your graduates in the future.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you for having us on.
Townsquare Sunday returns in just one moment.